Hi there, welcome to my channel. So I'm not actually in Japan yet. I'm still waiting for my certificate of eligibility to come from the Japanese government so that I can apply for my visa. But I kind of got tired of waiting to start my channel, so here we go. Today is going to be a pretty simple video. I'm going to be answering a lot of frequently asked questions that I get when I tell people that I majored in Japanese or that I'm going to Japan to teach English. And I do have notes, quite a lot of them, so if you see me looking down instead of at the camera, that's why. So let's get started. Question number 1. Why Japan/Japanese? So my answer to this is often, why not? But really I don't have a clear answer for this one. Growing up I didn't travel much. I had never been out of the US before, and I was always really interested in other countries. What I first got into was England. I was first really interested in England. I wanted to go there. I wanted to go to college there for a while. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that England, while it's a different country, it's still pretty similar to America. It's not that much different. The people spoke English, probably had similar routines and things like that. I basically knew most of English history too, because it's kind of intertwined with American. So I had lost interest after a while. In high school I took 4 years of French, which I cannot speak any French if you ask me to. But France never really wowed me either. Even though I took 4 years of it, I never really liked French, and I don't really like any of the Romance languages, to be honest. Sounds aren't that pleasing to me. So really the only non-Asian languages that I like are Slavic languages, so like Russian or Polish. And the Germanic languages, they can be really rough sounding, but they're a lot more interesting to me. But I definitely think Asian languages are the most appealing when it comes to speaking. So anyway, I guess I was always searching for a place that was completely different from what I was used to. Culturally, language-wise, things like that. I had always liked Japan. I started listening to Japanese music and watching anime when I was in high school. It was never really a place that I imagined myself going to, though. You don't really hear a lot of people studying Japanese or going to Japan to work and stuff like that. Yeah, people do it, but you don't really hear about it that much. And actually not many schools in Pennsylvania offer Japanese as a major, so my options for college were quite limited. I think I had 3 that I considered altogether. The University of Pittsburgh, which was my first choice, Elizabethtown, and Bucknell University, which actually only had a East Asian Studies program. They didn't have Japanese as a major. But it was close to home. So anyway, the summer before my senior year, I still had kind of no idea what I wanted to do when I grew up, what I wanted to go to college for. I had absolutely no clue. So actually, I was sent a letter from the People-to-People Student Ambassador program inviting me to go to Japan with them. So, this was a really exciting opportunity for me, so I basically begged and begged and begged my parents to let me go. I got them to go to the information session, and from there on they kind of slowly agreed to let me go. It was a really expensive trip, but it was also, for me at the time, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So like I said, eventually they did agree and let me go. To fund the trip, I actually did some of my own fundraising. I sold pasta, and I sent out sponsor letters to different members of my community, different community leaders, and even like my doctor's offices and stuff like that. So for the sponsors, what I would do is I updated them before my trip and after my trip. And I offered things like coming to do a presentation on my trip, or writing an essay, or sending them pictures from my trip. So I pretty much did as much work as I could to make this happen. My parents, of course, paid the remaining funds, which to this very day I'm so thankful for, because without this trip I would never have, figured out what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go and what I wanted to see. So yeah, this trip actually helped me decide, what I was going to do with the rest of my life. That is to teach English in Japan. I just fell in love with the country, the people, the culture. It was basically everything that I was looking for. So based off this trip, I decided I wanted to study Japanese in college, because I knew I wanted to return and eventually live and work there, just from one trip. It was pretty fantastic. And the most valuable thing I can do to prepare, I thought, is learn the language. So that's why I just wanted to be a language major and not an Asian studies major. I wanted to focus on language classes, and specifically classes that were Japan and Japanese related, and not just focused on East Asia as a whole. I did actually complete an Asian studies certificate at Pitt, so in the end, when I graduated, I had a major in Japanese, a minor in sociology, and an Asian studies certificate. I did want to minor in Korean when I first started college, and I actually took a semester of it, but it ended up being pretty hard and pretty time-consuming to learn both languages at once and kind of give each the effort that they required of me while still focusing on my other classes. So I'd definitely like to continue learning Korean in the future. I can still read it, so I think if I wanted to pick it back up again, it wouldn't be that difficult. So yeah, actually that is my long-winded, kind of confusing, and semi-off-topic answer to the question, why Japan/Japanese? Moving on to question number 2. Do you speak Japanese? So those who don't know that I've been to Japan before, or that I had majored in Japanese in college, usually ask this question. I usually end up explaining that I took 4 years of the language at Pitt and studied abroad at Nonsan University in Nagoya, Japan for a full academic year. Now that might actually seem like a lot to some people, but it's really not. Japanese is a pretty difficult language to learn because there's usually no direct translations into English. It's a pretty situational based language. Plus there's also katakana, hiragana, and kanji to learn. So it takes a very long time to get a good grasp on the language. So by the end of my study abroad year, I was actually at my highest fluency level, which I would still actually consider to be conversational. I could maybe, and a big emphasis on maybe, have passed the JLPT2 at that point, but that may have been a stretch for me. So for those of you who don't know, the JLPT is a Japanese language proficiency test. So basically to work at a Japanese speaking company, you would need to pass at least level 2 to be looked at. And 2 is the second highest level, so it goes like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1 being the most difficult level, and 5 being the easiest level. So actually right now, after not studying for a complete year, my proficiency level has dropped quite a bit. My listening comprehension is definitely, my strongest point still. My speaking is a bit rusty, and we can kind of just forget about reading altogether. I hate kanji, and I know that's a weird thing to say for someone who loves the language, but I absolutely hate kanji. Especially the way that they teach it. You're studying like, 100 kanji at a time and just memorizing them. And so that's what I would do. I would memorize them for the test, and then, right after the test, they would just be gone. So anyway, as far as speaking, I'd still consider myself conversational. Will I ever be fluent? Not right away. Maybe after a couple years of living in Japan and studying on my own. But, you know, like with any language, you'll never really know the whole thing. There are words in English that I still don't even know, but I think the key is being able to use context clues to figure out what something means in your second language. Being able to infer things. I think once I get to that point, I think I'd be happy with that. Okay, so moving on to question number 3. Have you been there before, and what are the good, bad parts? So again, this question kind of comes off as being repetitious, but I'll answer it anyway. Yes, I've been there before, once in 2010 for 2 weeks with the People to People Student Ambassador Program, and once for the 2013-2014 academic school year, where I studied at Nanzan University in Nagoya. Both were completely different experiences for me. When I went with People to People, I pretty much knew nothing about Japan. It was all new. I visited about 10 cities within 2 weeks and had a weekend homestay with a Japanese family that I still keep in touch with to this day. I actually visited them when I studied abroad. The best thing about this trip was that everything was new and exciting, and the trip was completely tourist-based. So I saw, you know, most of the main tourist attractions, and we even got to do some more rare things that most tourists wouldn't be able to do just because of who we were and what organization we were with. So basically what the purpose of this trip was to promote cultural understanding and exchange through hands-on experiences. And that goal kind of never left me. Because by teaching English in Japan, I'd like to promote cultural understanding through learning how to communicate using English. To me, just being able to speak another language is not enough. Speaking is not communicating. Communication takes a lot of cultural knowledge and being able to apply that when you're speaking. So by teaching students to communicate, I kind of hope to bridge the gap between Japanese and American culture through understanding and appreciation developed through language learning. Again, kind of off topic. So, on the other hand, my study abroad year was a lot different. Having been there before, I kind of had an idea of how things would be. I had even been to Nagoya before. So, you know, I kind of had an advantage over some of the other students. I didn't really experience culture shock as much as some of the other students had. Some of them had it really bad to the point where they wanted to go home. But it kind of took me a shorter amount of time to adapt to my new surroundings and routines. So, you know, that was one benefit of, you know, my people-to-people trip that was really useful. And also this time I wasn't a tourist, you know, I was a student studying at a university and became part of the community in that area. You know, I also made a ton of friends from Japan and a ton of friends from all over the world, from England, from France. And I actually may have had more friends in Japan than I do in America. Some other things that I did was playing futsal with an all-guys circle, which is kind of like a club in America. We would do that every week, and it became like the highlight of my week. You know, I loved playing soccer. I got to make new friends. It was a blast. I got really awesome at Japanese arcade games. I won like so many things that I couldn't bring them all home because I couldn't fit them in my suitcase, and I didn't want to send another package home because it kind of got expensive. I also went clubbing with friends, and I traveled all over the country. Like, I actually traveled to South Korea with friends too during one of our breaks. It was pretty much the best 9 months of my entire life. You know, but like with any situation, there's also bad times, and I saw that more with my study abroad trip than with my people-to-people trip. You know, I learned the hard way that suicide is a common thing in Japan. One of my Japanese friends committed suicide in his dorm room while we were there, and kind of left us all baffled and, you know, wondering why. And this is kind of personal, but I had just seen him the night before. We were watching a TV show together, and the next day he was gone. I also learned about the negative impacts of individuality and standing out from the crowd. I learned about hikikomori and the need for better mental health care in Japan. You know, every country has its faults. No place is perfect. But when I personally weigh the good and the bad, when it comes to Japan and America, you know, I actually just find that Japan is a better fit for me. And, you know, it's not for everyone. It's definitely not for everyone. But, you know, I was fortunate enough to find out that, you know, this is where I want to live. This is where I want to raise a family. This is where I want to work. And I'm completely aware that it may entirely be because I'm a foreigner in Japan. You know, I can't really say that I would feel the same way if I were a Japanese person living in Japan. Foreigners have kind of their own problems, things like discrimination and stuff like that. But there's a lot of negative things about Japan that don't actually apply to me because I'm a foreigner. And, you know, I'm definitely aware of that. But yeah, I definitely think that gaijin have their own separate issues, but I'm definitely prepared to deal with all the negative things that come with moving to Japan, and take those along with all the good things that I love about it. The next question may seem a little silly, but I think it's definitely one that I need to address. So question number 4 is, so you must like anime, right? Not necessarily. You know, I kind of find that there's this stigma about foreigners in Japan being obsessed with anime and manga. And it's seen as this negative and weird thing, and I never understood why. But their main focus is to be entertaining and to inspire different ways of thinking and to create an escape from reality. These are the reasons why I think people become so passionate about that and become so enthused about them. And I don't think that's a bad thing. People become enthused about American TV shows, about American singers and stuff like that. You shouldn't make fun of people for liking the things that they like. You should approach them with tolerance and an open mind. If more people did this, it would put an end to a lot of hate and bullying, you know, not just concerning this issue. I know I'm preaching to the choir, but try. But anyway, back to me. I used to like anime. I watched it a lot in high school, but not so much anymore. The last one that I watched was Attack on Titan, and I absolutely loved it. And Levi is my favorite, and if you know me, then you will definitely know that fact. I do have some other favorites from the past that I don't really, you know, watch anymore, but had watched. And I don't really keep up with any new ones or anything like that. I actually prefer watching Japanese movies or dramas. So there's my answer to that question. Question number 5. What do you need in order to teach English in Japan? To teach English in Japan, basically what you need is a bachelor's degree in something, in any field. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be English, or it doesn't have to be teaching. Not that those fields wouldn't help you, you know, in the long run. But even someone with, like, say, a computer science degree or an accounting degree can do it. The reason you need a bachelor's degree and can't have anything lower, it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with qualification. but more so with the availability of a work visa. So in order for a company to sponsor you to come to Japan and work for them, you need a minimum of a bachelor's degree. Anything lower, associate's degree, can't be sponsored. You need a bachelor. You need a 4-year degree from a college. Otherwise, there are Japanese teaching certificates, but they're not required. They can look nice on a resume and would probably be beneficial to you, but again, they're optional and not required. Moving on to question 6, and I have 2 more questions after that. So question 6 is teaching English all you want to do in Japan? And no, that's not all I want to do in Japan. It's not what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, at least I hope. Unless I love it, and unless, you know, I think it's, you know, the perfect fit for me and stuff like that. But for the most part, what I want to do is improve my fluency and take the JLPT and get myself, you know, qualified to work for a Japanese company at some point. But that's a little bit further into the future. I want to take at least 1 or 2 years to teach and study and stuff like that. But I also have this secret dream of opening a cat cafe in Japan. So we'll see. You know, if I meet the right person and they're also gung-ho for it, you know, it may happen one day, it may not. But honestly, that would be pretty much my dream job, just working at a cat cafe. Okay, so moving on to question number 7. Once you miss your family, yeah, of course I'm gonna miss my family, you know, but I actually realized a long time ago that I have to live my life for me and not for my family. I know that they're proud of me for doing what I'm doing, making it this far, and I know that sooner or later they'll understand why I left. To be honest, I was the happiest I've ever been in my life while living those 9 months in Japan. Everyone deserves to feel that happiness and to have the chance to live a happy life. So if moving to Japan is what it takes for me to be happy, then I'm gonna go. And I think my parents have realized that and not necessarily accepted it yet. But yeah, I definitely hope that they come to visit me sooner or later, and because I know they would really like it there. And I would love to play tour guide and take them to all the cool places that I know about and show them around the place that I consider to be my home. So yeah, I'm gonna miss my family, I'm gonna miss my friends, I'm gonna miss my animals, my kitty, my dog, but, you know, I'll be okay. And my family will be okay, and my friends will be okay. Okay, so this last question is kind of a negative, or so it comes off to me as negative most of the time. You know, what's so great about Japan? When I've been asked this question in the past, it was always said in a kind of unfriendly tone, you know, kind of as if they were asking me not necessarily what is so great about Japan, but, you know, what's wrong with America. Like I said before, each country has its good and bad qualities, and so when I weigh my options, I decided that Japan was a better fit for me, like I had said. And that's all. Like, the people who ask this question are the ones who fuel the negative stigma and associated with Japan and Japanese things. So like, they're fueling the stereotype of the type of people that would be associated with Japan, if that makes any sense. So I feel like I wouldn't be asked the question in this way, say if I were moving to England or to France or something. like I said before, there's definitely a lack of understanding and appreciation for the Japanese culture. You know, I've seen it, you know, viewed in a very negative light. And what I hope to do with this channel is change that. So yeah, that's all I have for today. Sorry for the paper rustling. I hope you can hear me okay. This ended up being, you know, quite a long video, but I hope you enjoyed listening to me talk. And if you did, I would really appreciate it if you would leave a thumbs up. And yeah, I think lastly, I just want to say that right now I don't have the best equipment for filming and editing. So as you can see, you know, the quality of my videos isn't at its best right now. But I'm going to do my best to make interesting and informational videos, and I'm going to be saving up for a new camera and new computer, so I ask that you please look forward to better quality videos in the future. And hopefully I also get, you know, better in front of the camera and not so nervous and, you know, feeling weird sitting here talking to myself in my bedroom. So yeah, if you have any questions or comments, please leave those down in the comment section, and I'll do my best to answer them. And if you would like to keep in touch with me and stay up to date with my new videos, please hit the subscribe button so you can, you know, become part of my posse and my Japan-loving army that I'm building up. Yeah, thank you to the few subscribers that I have right now. It means a lot that you support my channel. And thanks to you for watching this video, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye!